knowledge. There is a text which name of that text is the self-knowledge. Do we know ourselves? Yes, I know myself. Then why I am in pain and suffering? Why I enter into anxiety? Why I enter into distress? That is the first question comes to our mind. That if I know myself, then I can save myself from anxiety, stress, duality, fear, etc. So that proves that I don't know who am I. And whatever I know about myself is a false notion. I know it, which that is what we say it is a false I. So look at it. So we just with a cognitive ability, we reason, we understand, and then we try to find out who we are. Now to check it. No, I know myself. Then the second reason comes, the world is responsible for my stress and suffering. Really? The entire world is responsible for my suffering? Okay. So if the world is responsible for my suffering, can I control the world? I have a limited control. Very limited, minimum control over even going to the kitchen. I have minimum control. Minimum control over the house and over the outer conditions in my life. And if the outer world is responsible for my suffering, then there is no way to bring an end to the suffering, pain, anxiety, reaction, duality, conflict, and all that. Second reason. We have to think of it, If the neighbor next door is responsible for my suffering, answer is no. No one else is responsible for my suffering in the world. So first thing that I don't know really who am I. I have a mixed understanding. I'm a mother, I'm a father, I'm a son and a daughter, and I'm rich and I'm poor, I'm male and female. These are the different characteristics of a human being, but I don't know who am I. That is the first. Second is that, the world outside cannot be responsible for my pain and the suffering because many a times I experience peace and happiness, love and wisdom. When I'm with myself, I feel that state of the calmness. So the Master says the self-knowledge, the knowledge of the real self is very important to bring an end to the suffering. Bring an end not only to the suffering, but also to our anxiety, daily life, reaction. Can I remove it? Answer is yes. Eastern wisdom says we can bring an end to the suffering once and for all. What is the way? Just to know who am I. And this who am I, we say, is the real self. Then the real self, we say it is of the nature of consciousness. And then this consciousness is an attribute of love, truth, and wisdom. Oh, I am love. I don't love anybody. I am love. Yes. I am the peace. Yes. I am the peace. I am the happiness. I am the love. I am the truth. I am the wisdom. Oh, so it means I am the body-mind complex is love, truth, wisdom? No. If the body-mind complex is the love, truth, and wisdom, it is all about sensuality. It depends on the sense organs. Look at it. Oh, so I am different than the body-mind complex. Answer is yes. So we have to bridge the gap. We have to move from ignorance to wisdom. I am body-mind complex. At this time, I have a mixed and a false notion, and step-by-step understanding, entering into deeper state, higher consciousness, and I find that I am not the body-mind complex, I am the real self. That is the journey of the Eastern West. My mind is constantly going outside on things, objects, people. Seeking that peace and happiness will not work. So the entire journey of the Eastern wisdom helps us how to gather the mind that is scattered outside in millions of directions. Millions and millions of directions. Through the sense organ, through my past impression, through the desires, through the craving, through the obsession, the mind is running always outside. When this mind starts running inside, the time comes we have a thoughtlessness. Consciousness with a thought is known as the mind. Thought cannot exist without an object. Thought cannot exist without an object. So when I move my mind inside, my mind starts entering into a state, thought without an object that cannot exist. So I enter into a thoughtlessness state that is the pure consciousness. And that is what is our real self. At least, you might have experienced, there are moments, when there is no thoughtless thought. You just experience the state of awareness only. We all have those experiences, maybe for a moment. So when we extend that moment for an indefinite period, means the mind continues to live in a higher state of meditation. We find that objectless state. That objectless state is also the thoughtlessness. And there we experience our real self. So all the thoughts with an object has some element of desire. And when these concentrated desire is known as the ego, and the ego is known as the false I. Simple. But I have to contemplate again and again. Oh, yes, then I recognize this is the false I and this is the real I.
Okay, let me just, if you come to, if you acquire, have no thoughts and really feel quiet inside. Now, of course, I mean, the thing is, you revert again in half an hour or 1 hour. What keeps you from reverting to a mind full of thoughts?
Yes.
You don't go back there. What do you do?
That's a beautiful question. We have to find out that I'm quiet and calm for half an hour, and what makes my mind become crazy again after half an hour. All kinds of thoughts starts pouring into the mind, maybe of anxiety, reaction, emotions, what happened. So remember, understand this in a simple way. You are listening to me and attended this session, so it is very outward practical. There are two sets of impressions takes place. One impression, you are directly listening to me, and other set of the impressions is created by the mind, and they are accumulated. They accumulate and goes back to the storehouse of the mind. And that storehouse of the mind contains trillions of impressions of our anxiety, past impressions, not only the impressions of this birth, but from the previous birth. Those impressions of which we are not aware, they trigger my mind. The moment I say, here is Anne, how do I know that you are Anne? It is because of the past impression, the label I have understood, your face, your characteristics. And I say, oh, Anne, how are you? So my mind triggers from the past impression and then I recognize you. But that is okay. But what happens, those impressions of anxiety, duality, conflict, craving, what we have done in the past life, in this life, they are present there. So after a moment of quietness, even for half an hour, my mind looks at something unconsciously, it triggers, creates a thought from the past impression, and I have my mind full of the thoughts of anxiety, duality, conflict. So, first level to understand, it is known as, we say, it is vasana. It is so simple. We just met in a session. How did you recognize me that I'm the same guy who will give you a lesson? It is because of the past impression in your mind. You looked at me and the past impression triggers your mind. Oh, here you are. In a camera, you are looking at a very corner. Adjust it. So the past impressions is the first step of that is already there, and we have all those impressions. Storehouse, we don't know. But how do I come to know? You wake up in the morning. You wake up in the morning and you say that I am upset. My mood is not good. It has come from the past impression that triggered into the mind. You look at a person or a situation, all the sense organs are outside the situation, outside, received by the mind, going into the past impression, the trigger is there. Oh, I like this, I don't like this, I react to this. So those reaction and impression coming from the trillions of impressions are there. Second step. So when we start thinking, after the trigger, I get either attached or I have an aversion, and that causes the desire. Third step. Now, once I have a desire is fulfilled, I get a pleasure, and my mind creates that impression of a pleasure, goes into the fixed deposit. That fixed deposit is the vasana. Everything goes back into the deposit. Are you getting it? That desire, and then my desire is not fulfilled, I am agitated. So impression of the agitation is already deposited, again goes back into the bank account, the memory bank. So those are.
I have a question.
Yeah.
It's apparently well known okay, I go to sleep and then I wake up early in the morning, and I have anxiety. Now, it's also a fact that that cortisol is a stress hormone, and that's more, how shall I say, it's more evident in the morning. It acts up in the morning. Now, what do, isn't that a well-known fact?
This is a well-known fact. This is a remote.
Yeah, that reminds me of a friend. She has been a therapist all her life. And just recently I said, how are you? Oh, except I wake up in the morning and I don't feel well. So I said, that's a cortisol. So it's shouldn't, how shall I say, shouldn't a therapist know about it?
Very interesting
People deal with
question.
patients all the time.
Very interesting question, but we have to understand it clearly. Can this remote function on its own? It's a dead matter. Unless a conscious approach, I am conscious, I know it is a remote, and I push the button and it is working. Right?
Yeah.
I need a consciousness to work on any dead matter, non-living thing. Is cortisol is conscious entity or a chemical?
Chemical, of course.
And chemical, can that chemical work on its own unless if there is no consciousness and mind?
No, it's provoked by the person.
It is provoked by the person. So if I don't provoke by a particular thought, I don't get associated with a particular thought. Will that chemical affect me? Answer is no. So what is very important that I can regulate that cortisol because I am conscious entity and I can get rid of those thoughts and plus the thoughts associated with an emotion, and I can take charge of my life. Think. I am not saying that what I am saying is always right, but I have to think. This remote cannot control unless there is a conscious entity. You take vitamin A, B, C pills, conscious entity has to be there. That conscious entity with a thought is known as the mind. And that mind, if it moves in a direction, it creates a multiple thoughts pertaining to an object, pertaining to a chemical, will definitely cause problem. Is cortisol can take over the mind or mind can take over the cortisols? Look at the other scenario. Think. It's a very well-known fact. It is the mind can take over. But what should be the nature of the mind? What should be the nature of the mind? The mind should be pure. Mind should not get carried away by those negative thoughts. Can you be in anxiety without sensing, without you have a thought of anxiety? You have a feeling of, say, heaviness in the head. Now, heaviness in the head is, there is no thought at all.
There is no what?
There is no thought. There's the heaviness, there is some sensation in the body or in the head, but a thought is not there. Mind is not thinking. Mind is not thinking, oh, that I have a heaviness in the head. Will it create any symptom? You will not feel any symptom. So thought with an object of anxiety creates an anxiety. Thought with an object of stress creates a stress. Thoughts with an object of anger makes you angry. So that is what. And then what we say, consciousness with a thought is the mind. Consciousness with no thought is no mind. How it is possible when you move the mind within, inside from outside to inside. So when we move the mind inside, we reach to a state of thoughtlessness. What is that state of the thoughtlessness? It is pure consciousness. Can the pure consciousness be affected by cortisol? Can you say that? Consciousness can be affected by cortisol? No. Consciousness is independent entity. It is all pervading. So consciousness reflected into the mind because of my past experiences creates a thought pattern that is affecting me much more than the consciousness. So meditation is the discovery of that pure consciousness beyond the mind.
Yeah, I have one other question.
Yes.
We also talk about the mind.
Yes.
Okay, we know what it is. But we never talk about the heart. Isn't the heart a factor too?
Yes. So what happens when we talk about the heart in modern science? We normally refer to it as the mind. Either it is an animal mind with those instinct negative emotions, or we talk about the mind with the positive emotions. That is how we understand them. Science is not very clear. It doesn't believe in the mind even though it uses the mind. It says everything is happening in the brain. It's a gray matter. So manifestation of the brain in one aspect is what the mind is. But in Eastern wisdom we say mind, intellect, ego, and the memory. Mind is one, it has four functions. Phone is one, it has many functions. You can send the message, you can receive the call, you can capture the video, you can record the audio, and etc. etc. So phone is one. So when we use the word mind, it is one entity has four functional aspects. One is the simple thinking. Other is that when the mind, out of many thoughts, it is decisive, it decides, it is an intellect. When it attaches, associates with the I-ness, it becomes the ego. When it recalls and retrieves any information, it is the memory. But all four functions are known as the mind. In Eastern wisdom, we say in the heart, when we talk of the heart, we say the heart is the seat of pure consciousness. We are not talking of physical heart.
Oh.
We are not talking of physical heart. So we say that exactly at the center of the rib cage, deep inside, behind the mind, there is a heart which is the seat of pure consciousness or seat of real self. That is how we talk about it. It is the seat of the real self. But mind comes in front with the negative and the positive emotions. So once we understand the mind, we understand the impurity of the mind, we remove the impurities of the mind, and then we can take this mind deep inside into the cave of our heart where a thoughtlessness entity is present, which is of the nature of pure consciousness. Peace, love, truth, and wisdom are located. That is the discovery of our real self. So we talk about it. We talk a lot about it. But when even the doctor says that your heart is melting, your heart is weak. So basically, they are saying that you are emotionally weak. They mean to say. They are saying it. They talk about even the heart indirectly. but they are bound by their system. They cannot go beyond the material approach. They have to find the material cause of everything. Material cause, cortisol, or you have those other chemicals which puts you into the hyper state, which puts you into the hyper. They will always talk with reference to the chemicals because science is a material based approach. They understand the entire mechanism because of these chemicals, because of this matter. Your heart is a matter, your brain is a matter. So they always talk in terms of that matter. We say our approach is consciousness based approach. So we start from the highest consciousness and then we go down into the matter. The consciousness manifests into the matter in different stages with different gradations. One gradation of manifestation is the mind. Do you see that? The mirror can reflect the sunlight, but the stone cannot reflect the sunlight. Similarly, the consciousness in the body cannot be reflected because it's a very dense and coarse. But the same consciousness can be reflected through the mind. So when the consciousness is reflected into the mind, it becomes a reflected consciousness. That reflected consciousness is our ego, our mind, our intellect, our memory. It is only a reflection. Am I making the things more complex?
No.
The mirror that you have on the wall, I see, can reflect the light. At the same time, the wall cannot reflect the light. So it is not on the consciousness, it is consciousness is present everywhere. It is all pervading, but it depends on the object whether the consciousness be reflected because from that object or not. So the mirror can reflect the consciousness. So in us, the mind is there that can reflect the consciousness. Body cannot reflect the consciousness. So body becomes conscious through the mind. Body becomes consciousness through the mind. So now body, reflected consciousness, and reflected consciousness cannot work without the thought. Thought is a necessary evil. We have to live with it, and without living with it, the existence of being a human is not there. But then the master says, I have to live with what is right and good. What is right and good means I have to take my mind to follow the path of what is right and good. So, what is right and good? Then you start exploring what is right must be right in all situations, in all locations, in all relationship. Sometimes you will raise a question that something may be right for me and something may be wrong for you. The same thing may be wrong. No, we are saying what is right and good should be right and good in all conditions, in all situations, in all relations. What is that thing? Tell me. So it means it is a common ground. And what is that common? It is the consciousness which is common everywhere. Consciousness is about the mind. And then we say that consciousness is of the nature of peace, happiness, love, truth, and wisdom. Oh, so can I transcend the mind? Answer is yes. What is the process? The meditation. So first, no, not only meditation, but the self-inquiry. So we understand every thought pattern. You see that, simple way. Mind reacts against some person. That very reaction, impression is already present. I react in my head before the person appears before me. So that impression of reaction is there, and I am reacting by a thought and a feeling. I'm already upset. So when I react, I become upset first before I make others upset. My master used to say, you wake up in the morning and your mood is upset and you are in anxiety. So if you can enter into anxiety by yourself, you can make everyone anxious. How dare you become anxious when you wake up in the morning? Check your thought process. Get rid of it. Move the mind within. Oh, I'm into anxiety. Let me close my eyes and start looking inside. Gather the mind inside. Any thought of anxiety comes, let me drop it. Oh, mind, you have to go inside. You have to look inside. And by persistent practice and understanding, you succeed in moving the mind within. And first time you realize moving the mind within simply means you are dropping the thoughts, including the thought of the anxiety and including supported by the feeling. You find that happiness and peace just by moving the mind within. First time you understand, and you always remember this. So any day you wake up in the morning, there is no anxiety. It is not because of the cortisol. Yes, cortisol may be the secondary reason, but I have taken over the mind. Cortisol and its chemical is not looking for the mind. Please, where is the mind? Let me increase. It is the mind. It is the mind in a hyper state that increases the cortisol. Cortisol cannot increase its percentage by itself. If it is possible, then you need not to take any protein and carbs from outside. Tell the body, carb, increase your percentage. Protein, increase it. You need not to take any food. They are unconscious. They are matter. So the consciousness, the action of the consciousness on the matter is very important. So once we understand that and we allow the mind to follow what is right and good all the time, and the life will change. Anxiety is not there, anger is not there, reaction is not there. You know what happens? Many thoughts of negative, positive, fear, anxiety, they are crystallized. And that crystallization is known as the ego. And we always communicate with that ego. What ego says? I have a lot of anxiety. I've been into anxiety for the last 20 years. Let's see. It is crystallized. So if I get rid of that crystallization, which is also known as the impurity of the mind moves into the state of the calmness and the peace. Tell me, can mind be into peace with chemical or without chemical? just, just say that. Just see. Oh, mind is reflected consciousness. Obviously, I may have a high blood sugar and still I may be in peace. Is it not? Is it not? So it means my mental peace is independent of that level of the uh, sugar. So the case with the cortisol, same is the case with other chemicals. So it means mind can take over these chemicals and can also change their behavior and character we have. You can ask your Gabriella about neuroplasticity, epigenetics. So the scientist says that if you first thing that they talk about meditation practice, but if you continue the meditation practice, you are regular and you really practice meditation, you are able to regenerate the brain cells without any chemical. Come on. Neuroplasticity. And further, many research studies are done on the practice of meditation. And the scientists, in California, they have suggested that they can modify the behavior of the gene, epigenetics. Do you use any chemical for the practice of meditation? think, think. It is just, so science is going there, but we already say that can consciousness bring about a change in the behavior, in the attitude, in the personality? The answer is yes. And in turn, it can change also how a particular chemical in the body behaves through the mind.